make a promise that I wouldn't make fun of Chris's weight, and so I won't. I'll just mention it. No, I noticed a lot of people got up and left. I'm not a Republican or a Democrat. I'm not a politician, smooth talker. In fact, I'm not a very good talker. I don't even have a planned speech. I'm not here to take your money or collect taxes, so you don't have to go running out. In fact, I'm here because, just like everyone else, I recognize that there's a problem and that we need to fix that problem. What we're doing just isn't working. I don't think there's a person in this room that would disagree with me there. And I don't advocate for any one way to get to recovery. I'm not here to tell you that you need to have safe injection sites. I'm not here to tell you that you need to go to jail or that you need some kind of support in your life that you don't have. I'm just here to tell you that what we have doesn't work and we need to change things. And I believe my bill, Addiction's Not a Crime, will change that. We need to get to the underlying root cause of addiction. And that's what we're missing in Washington, D.C., and Harrisburg, wherever you go, wherever you have politicians. We're missing the fact that we need to get to the underlying root cause of addiction and that we can't just keep jailing people to get to that. So my bill, Addiction's Not a Crime, it ends the failed war on drugs. It ends for-profit prisons. It removes the federal government and the regulations from the process, allowing doctors, patients, and treatment facilities to fix the problem with free market ideas. Ideas that have been proven, ideas that have worked in other countries, ideas that will be tried and true through free market approaches, through recovery homes, through other medical facilities. And we will create an environment where the street drug dealer doesn't exist anymore, where gangs and criminal elements like cartels are rendered obsolete, and we're no longer fighting on the borders of Mexico or in Afghanistan or wherever to keep these criminal elements out of our country. Now, 2 weeks ago, we were in Wilkes-Barre, and people came up to me afterwards and said, Dale, my wife's a Democrat and I'm a Republican, and I don't know where you're at. I thought you were a Republican with some of the things you said, and I thought you were a Democrat with some of the things you said. So, what party are you with? Like, who are you affiliated with? And I don't usually like to start off, and I don't really like to sit there and preach about who I am and what party I'm with, because it shouldn't be about what party we're with. It shouldn't be about who we affiliate ourselves with. Too many people have a predetermined notion of who they're voting for because they see an R, they see a D, they see an I, they see some letter or some color next to someone's name. Now, since everybody always asks me afterwards, I'm just going to tell you now, I'm a libertarian. I believe in freedom. I believe in free market ideas. I believe that we shouldn't trust government, politicians, and lobbyists to solve the problem. And this opioid epidemic is exactly the reason why. This is what happens when we trust politicians and government and lobbyists to solve the problem. The problem is right out here. The problem's here. And that's where the solution is as well. The solution isn't in Washington, D.C. So that's why my bill tries to get the lobbyists out of the process, because they're only in it to make money. And as long as they're only trying to make money, they're going to make money off of prisons and off of holding prisoners. They're going to make money off of prescribing medications to people. And they're going to write bills that center around getting people in jail and putting them in front of doctors who can only prescribe one thing, their product, rather than treatments that are going to work. Now, I'd like to just kind of do an exercise here. And I'm a libertarian, so I won't force anyone to participate, but if you'd like to participate, please do. I'd like you to just close your eyes for a second, and I'd like you to picture a young girl who grew up in poverty. She was beaten by her father, by her family members, and she didn't really have love. She didn't have all the tools that she needed in life. She ended up going through life in her 20s. She already had 2 kids. She was on welfare, and she was trying in life. She was trying to get to where she needed to be. This woman had 6 kids by the time her life was over, and during the years, she did everything she could for these 6 kids. But the struggles that she had as a single mother, moving from home to home, trying to pay rent, trying to keep a job, trying to put food on the table. she found her way with an addiction. Now, she didn't have anywhere to turn. She was born in the 50s, and through the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, she was taught that that's a junkie, and that's someone that created their own problems. So who's she going to turn to? If she reaches out to someone, she's going to go to jail, and she's going to lose her 6 kids. She's going to be treated like a junkie and treated like someone that nobody really cares about. And so she had this stigma. So she turned to drugs, and years later, she ended up dying and not having a great relationship with her family because of her addiction to drugs, but also her addiction to cigarettes. In the end, cigarettes is what killed her. She had a lung disease. And I'd like to also tell you about another person, a young boy. He grew up with an addict for a father who just couldn't get help. And one day his father decided to go through recovery because of whatever events happened in his life. He really only had a relationship with his father on a time-to-time basis, and that relationship wasn't very good at all. So he was living with his mother, who was also a single mother, and maybe she wasn't the best mother. She loved him. She tried to do all she could for him, but she couldn't provide for him what he needed from his father. He grew up in his late teens, introducing himself to drugs and alcohol, and by the time he was 37 years old, he had his 3rd overdose. His second one was in prison because his prison guard gave him heroin, but on his 3rd overdose, he died. Fatal overdose in Kensington. Now, some might say, why did this woman have 6 kids if she couldn't feed them all? I'm happy today that my mother had all 6 of us because I have 5 great brothers, and I wouldn't be here today if she would have went to jail. I wouldn't be here today if her addiction put her behind bars. My cousin was the young boy. My cousin was my best friend. I actually met someone here today who told me that she was his counselor a few years back and she remembered him. Small world. But it's important to know people in Washington, D.C., they may or may not have situations where they've had someone close to home that has rocked their life with addiction. But it's not too far from them. Every community I go to, everywhere I turn, when I talk to people, they say, you know what? I know someone in recovery too. It's my child is in recovery, or my neighbor's friend has someone in recovery. It's an epidemic for a reason. It affects everyone. But these people in Washington, D.C., they get money from lobbyists because they have to get reelected in order to have a career and have a pension. And that's no way to fix this solution. So I think we need to return the power to the people. Once upon a time, we fought a revolution because we wanted a government that was run for the people and by the people. We didn't want to have kings and queens across this earth telling us what to do. But now we allow Washington, D.C. to tell us what to do. The war on drugs has lasted for about 40 years now. If a business lasted for 40 years, spending $1 trillion and increased incarceration by 800%, which the U.S. leads the world in illegal drug use. If a business operated like that, we'd consider it a failure. We wouldn't shop at that store. We wouldn't participate in that business. But yet we participate in government, and we blindly let them do what they want to do. And they're just not fixing the problem. Overdose deaths have now exceeded car accidents and violent crimes in America. Just sit back and think about that. Overdose deaths. How do we fix this? Well, I believe my bill, Addiction is Not a Crime, after we let the free market take care of this, we can start looking at countries like Portugal and Switzerland, where they've already solved this problem. In Portugal, in 2001, they started on the path towards treatment rather than incarceration. Overdose deaths for adults are 3 for every 1 million people. Think about that, only 3 for every 1 million people. In Switzerland, 1994, they embraced medical assistance programs, safe injection sites. 1,300 patients annually are administered with maintenance doses. Not one overdose has occurred since 1994 during these treatments. A lot of people say, well, you know what happens if they administer this dose in Philadelphia or wherever they might administer it, and someone has an overdose. Well, let's look at the model in Switzerland. They haven't had one since 1994. In these countries, the recovery rate is somewhere around 90 to 95%, where here, it's under 5%. And that's only what's calculated. That's not including those that don't try to recover. So it's a complete and utter failure, and it's because of the system and the trust that we have in the system. I think if there's something we all look at here today and we all take from this town hall that we're in, 10 years ago, this would not happen. We would not have all these people sitting here in this room talking about addiction, talking about drugs, talking about possible safe injections. We've come a long way. We're all a community where we want to solve a problem, and we don't want anyone dying. We don't want anyone feeling like they can't turn somewhere for help. I'm here today not because I'm someone in long-term recovery, but I'm someone with 2 little girls. I don't want them to know the pain that I've felt in my life. I don't want them to know the pain that you felt in your life. We need to fix this. We need to fix this today. It has to stop, and we can't allow ourselves to just trust Washington, D.C. anymore. We need to do it ourselves, and we need to fight. And we need to allow professionals to solve this problem.
Thanks, Dale. Now this brings us to our final speaker of the afternoon. When I asked Brandon how he would like to be introduced, I believe his humble side showed through, and he said, "I just